The Rock Island and Herington, they go together. Now, the Rock Island offices, second floor of the depot, 1909. Left to right, second is Mr. Holmgren, Mrs. Rucker's father. The other gentlemen are unknown. Roundhouse employees of 1911, and they are, top row, is the general foreman, unknown, John Hodson, A.S. McAllister in the cab, G.W. Skelton, Frank Derry, L.H. Smith behind Derry, Ed Colbert, Homer Castile, E.B. Smith, F.W. Humbarger, Fredericks, McClellan is a Pratt Division man, J. Seifert, another Pratt man, Ed Jenkins, Ed Welch. Now, the bottom row was Stacy Van Meter, George Pearson, O.K. Stewart, Francis McDonald, Roy Smalley, Bill Jewell, and he took the picture, Ed Nesley, and George Morgan. Mr. McAllister, founder and originator of the Brotherhood Locomotive Fireman Engineer Lodge. He was an engineer. Herington Roundhouse, 1900. The Herington Depot, 1900. Engine 4030 and roundhouse force of 83 men on the engine and turntable. The Herington Depot, you will know the seating house and the passenger train 1419 being serviced. They make stops at Herington for meals and also the Modoc at McFarland. Now, engine 2550 blow up at Paxico, Kansas, 1919, killing 3 men. They are Engineer Norton, Fireman Ed Hall, and Brakeman August Miller. Washout at Colby, 1913, killing 2 men. Shipyard employees working the crane in the yards, and they are William Diepenbrock, Jake Hilderman, S.M. Huntley, the boss, Harley Merritt, George Colieber, George Taylor, engineer of the derrick, Herman Peters, and Henry Reschneider. A few of the mighty steam engines used on the Rock Island lines. 2590 was a workhorse and used for tonnage. Engine 278, switch engine used in the Herington yards. Old number 9 being showed at the Herington Gold Esta, 1937. These engines were used for passenger service and were very fast. Engine 839. Another passenger engine, 941, being served to Herington Roundhouse, and it is covered with employees of the Roundhouse. Speaking of power, this engine, 3012, was slow but used for power or tonnage trains. 1555 engine was used for lighter tonnage trains. Now, in its days of the 1900s or in the 20s, the Modoc was known for its wonderful meals and service and hotel accommodations, a very beautiful place. Now, when the 5000s came out, they were fast, could handle tonnage as well. This is the 5020. Engine 2040 was a medium tonnage train engine. Officers and clerks standing by caboose, 30. They are left to right. The 6th man is Joe Hengel and Herman Neneman. Esther Kirkbride, or Esther Ramsey now. 10th is W.E. Haggard. 12th, Bert Mullen. 14th, Gus Hurd, Roy Davis, and Ralph Bowling. Eastbound freight train, extra 5012, coming into Topeka. American Royal at Topeka. Mr. Dick Ward, Yardmaster, Conobuski, Trainmaster. The California Limited, or the Imperial number 43, engine 4056, coming off the Union Pacific tracks at Topeka. Now these are some of the conductors that work the passenger trains. This is Leo Packy Ryan. Conductor Studebaker, Orlando Webb. Now these men worked passenger trains until they retired. Some of the engineers that pulled the passengers in freight trains or worked the switch engines were, this is Clarence May, or CD, standing in front of one of the new diesels, number 116 at Kansas City, waiting to get on the train, May 1958. Engineer Belmont Locke. He was a good engineer, very good. This crew on the head end consists of Everett Gillette, fireman, Charles Arnold, engineer, Woodrow Thompson, brakeman. Engineer Barney Yates. Switch crew at Herington, left to right, switchman Simmons, Haas, Sheridan, engineer Lou Trollick, and fireman Jacobs. C.J. Baker, switchman working an eastbound fruit train. American Royal cars. Now these trains Rock Island took care of every year from Minnesota to Topeka to Hudson and down to Oklahoma. They received the best of service. Officers of the local and state BFRT Lodge are, the only ones we know are the local men. That's Bernard Boozley is the first man. The fourth man is Harry Ferguson. Fifth, Jake Watkins, and the sixth is Burl Bowers. Engineer N.H. Snyder and Hobart Porter using a tie to push a car in the clear from which they pull the drawbar out. Now, these 6 diesels were wrecked and a total loss. They were on number 91 that hit a gravel truck west of Liberal, Kansas. Al Davis congratulating Fireman Jacobs on his retirement. Engineer Trollick is also congratulating. Engineer Trollick being congratulated on his retirement by Al Davis. Lawrence Eastridge and our familiar working 43 and 44. Now this is Lawrence Eastridge's last trip. He is retiring when he gets into Herington. Now in Herington we had the most modern telephone office, and this is the improved Mutual Telephone. Badger Lumber Yards at Herington was replaced by fire with the Herington Builders Lumber. Now the Herington Hotel was built by Mr. Herington around 1884. Modern, 3-story, 2-unit hotel, running water, steam heat, electric lights, Davis and Clark Barber Shop in the corner with a saloon in the basement. Fire destroyed the Herington Hotel February 1889 with temperature 32 degrees below zero. So cold, the hose froze. The hotel was a complete loss. Now Schilling built on the corner. Drylings and Dietrich are now located in the building. Horse-drawn taxi of Eastridge's was working from the depot to the hotel and also to the Barrett House. Mr. Herington built the Opera House. Some of the best entertainment this side of Kansas City was here. The Herington Mall stands where the Opera House stood. Mrs. Creeby's 3rd grade class. The Old Liggett Market. The Liggett Market float used in one of the many Booster Day parades. The new Liggett Market got an improvement. The Eagle Smokehouse, West Main Street, was hit by hail. Now, Vivian Pateman serving pigeon harder and ice cream soda while Lou All sits in the front of the store watching. He finally married her. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Kramer. They just got married. James Hare, Real Estate and Insurance Office over the Bank of Herington. Dave Ballantine Sr. family. Dave Ballantine on the right. Mrs. Hodson and Mrs. Eastridge standing. Mr. and Mrs. Ballantine Sr. Henry Cant's Drugstore is now part of Gamble's store. Vernon's Modern Garage. Any car can be fixed here. Charles Coles in his 1918 Case automobile. A Monstrevia with the senior boys of 1921. One of more modern and better feed stores in Herington. Director Conti of the Herington Ladies Band. Sunday concerts was one of the features that the ladies played for in the park. They also played over a large part of the country, and they are now playing in Chicago. They also played at the Wheat Show in Wichita. Mrs. C.M. Tufts and Mrs. H.C. Kent in their band uniforms. Now, these 6 ladies at Wichita are enjoying a breather. The National Old Trails Road sponsored these ladies of the Herington Band. The band picnic of White City included bands from Herington, White City, Alta Vista, Burdick, and I believe several other places. Mrs. H.C. Kent. Now, Betty's Dress Shop was owned by Betty Chandler, Minion Lorenz, Nettie Coulter, and Jimmy Moore working. The Herington football champions of 1936. Mr. Arlen Tadgey, oil pull tractor, one of the many antiques he used to own. Colonel Sharp at the 4-H Fair wheat cutting demonstration. Mr. and Mrs. Kepke. Gay Hankerson, and I do not know the other gentleman. Mr. and Mrs. E.G. Gibson, Dr. L.A. Moore, Paul Knuth of the Knuth Pharmacy, Rexall Drug, Mrs. F.D. Carmen and children. Thank you. The Tri-County Historical Society wants you to visit us anytime you wish. Thank you.